Hi, and welcome to Not Just Talk Therapy Podcast. We are your hosts.
This is Leslie, a holistic psychotherapist.
And I'm Britany. I'm the girl next door.
Talk therapy is great, but we believe it's not enough. We examine the body, mind, and soul and challenge you to think differently, see things in a holistic way to approach and resolve life's challenges.
Join us for a fun and meaningful conversation and learn tips and insights on how to approach life's complex issues. We are so excited for you to tune in.
Hi everyone, this is Leslie, and this is episode 2 of our podcast. Today I'm going to do a short introduction of who I am, and then later in episode 4, Britany will share a short introduction of who she is. We will share more of our stories throughout this podcast and our solo podcast that we will do once a month. This way, as a listener, you get to know us, your hosts, on a more intimate and deeper level. Today, I call this Chapter 1, giving you a little taste into my life. You will learn a little bit about my background, who I am, and the real me. You'll learn why I became a therapist, why I'm passionate about making a difference in the lives of others, and why I'm passionate about spreading the message of the importance for everyone to master their emotions and master their minds so they can master their life. Now, just a moment. Not sure if you caught it, but I just said you'll get to learn the real me. What do I mean by this? I'm authentic in who I am, but I've kept most of my life story hidden from people who know me. Sorry, friends who are listening. You only know a small side of me. But don't worry, I've given you the positive, uplifting side of me. I think my husband, maybe one of my best friends, and maybe one other person knows my whole story. My other best friends and other friends know me to some extent, but I've been hesitant to open up for various reasons. In the past, when I tried to share what happened to me and what I've been through, I was judged harshly, and I get it. What happened to me is hard to hear. It's hard to believe and hard to understand. I remember my husband, who comes from a loving, stable family, had a hard time understanding me when we first met. We were friends. He then met my family one by one and saw some horrible things happen and began to have compassion for me. He started to understand me better. But like I said, he didn't understand anything in the beginning because he doesn't come from violence, abuse, and loss. He comes from kindness and laughter. So I'm not sure where you, the listener, is coming from regarding your past. Maybe some of you have had some hardships, so you'll be able to relate to me. Or maybe some of you have had a pretty good life, so you may have a hard time empathizing. Either way, I think we've all had some adversities in our life, whether it be major or minor, and I hope you'll get a better understanding of who I am today as your podcast co-host. The point of me sharing this information today is this. You don't really get to know someone when things are always great. Think about this, okay? So when someone's always happy, that's all you know. And that's only one end of the spectrum. Who are they when they aren't happy? Think about that. When people are in pain and facing adversity, their true character and personality comes out. So as a co-host of this show, it's important for you to know me, the real me, and the whole entire emotional spectrum. And I'm the expert resource here, so I want you to connect with me on a more intimate level. So I've been through some serious shit. So when I give advice to and therapeutic tips and insights to my clients, I'm also giving part of my life experiences. I don't sit in a therapist chair and tell someone, everything's going to be okay, be happy. That's just BS. I know life is hard and it can get really ugly. I am very realistic. Some would say sometimes I'm too realistic. But it's the best way I feel to help my clients out. And thankfully, my clients appreciate it. Back to my story. So my childhood was pretty horrific, but it's also inspiring at the same time. I clung on to the pain and anger from my childhood for years to understand myself and the world around me. And I used it to excuse myself from things I wanted to do or did not want to do. But over the past years, I worked hard on letting it go because I needed to let it go. It was holding me back. I accepted what had happened, I forgave my parents and my brother, and learned to love myself and dive deep into self-healing and moved forward. But it's been a long, long journey. I'm half Asian and half white. I grew up in an upper middle class family. We had a nice big house, and my Asian grandparents lived with us. We had nice things and took nice trips and vacations, so from the outside, it looked like we were doing okay. but when you entered the door or even came close to our house, you could hear it. It was a war zone. I won't go into much detail today. I'm just going to give you an overview, but my life story links to the reason why I believe in my quote. When you master your emotions and master your mind, then you master your life. What do I mean by this? Well, if my parents were a little bit better in handling their emotions and their minds, maybe it would have rewritten my childhood to a more positive one. My parents meant well, but to be honest, they should have not been parents or waited longer to have my brother and I, or they shouldn't have gotten married. But my parents are not alone. There are tons of people out there, parents, other parents, adults, who do not know how to handle their emotions or their minds. If I could have a magic wand, I would change the world in how we manage and deal with our emotions and our mind. I wish everyone got a PhD in emotional mastery. It would make everything so much better. All the BS in the world, all the fights, wars, relationship issues, life issues, it all comes down to our emotional and mental health in our minds. Britany and I plan to do a whole podcast on this topic in the near future. Okay, so to give you a summary of what happened to me, I was born, then 2 years later, my brother was born. And after he was born, my life changed. He became the king in the house. My mom favored him over me because he was a boy and I was a girl. I was neglected, abandoned, and ignored. And my dad has confirmed this several times, so I'm not making this up from my memory. For my mom's Asian culture, males are preferred over females, which is why she treated him better. So from age 2 to about age 18, I was physically abused. I was thrown across the room. I was choked. I was beaten weekly with a stick or whatever tool they could find. I always had bruises all over my body. So bad that I had to be pulled off the swim team in high school. That's how bad it got. I was emotionally abused and abandoned by not being shown love. And I didn't feel safe to express myself emotionally, or I would have gotten beaten. I was verbally and mentally abused every day by being told I wasn't good enough, I wasn't smart enough, I wasn't pretty enough. If I came home with an A on a test, why didn't you make an A+? If I swam in the swim meet and got first place in a couple of races, why didn't you get first place in all the races? So then I was constantly compared to with other girls and other people, and it ended up making it very difficult for me to make friends. Now I want to remind you, I forgave my parents. But what I shared is so messed up. No child should ever go through that. I walked in eggshells every day in that house. I remember at age 12 keeping a diary and writing in it, I want to die. I wish I was not alive. I just didn't know how to do it. All I heard growing up was, I'm not enough. So I started to believe that as a child. And how sad is that? Later in my teens, my mom got breast cancer and my parents got divorced. And then my grandparents, who served as my safe haven when I needed to hide from the war going on in our house, moved to Los Angeles to be with my uncle. At age 19, our house caught on fire and I almost died. Seriously, seconds I would have suffocated and died in the flames. I'll share that story in more detail in another episode. Soon after the fire, I was cut off financially, so I had been on my own since I'm 19. In my early 20s, my mom passed away from breast cancer, and my brother caused a crazy scene the night before a funeral by assaulting my uncle and putting my dad in the hospital. It was insane. A few years later, he physically assaulted me, almost taking out my right eye, and I decided to never speak to him again. Today, we still don't have a relationship. There's more I will share in later episodes, but I'll stop there. The first part of my life was pretty horrible. I was dealt a shitty hand of cards. I got unlucky. But something inside of me was pushing me to survive, to live, to push through all the pain and crap that had happened. I wanted to die so many times. Even when I ran out from the fire, I thought, why didn't I die? And there was this inner voice inside of me telling me, Leslie, you aren't like them, meaning my family. Leslie, you're different. You're meant to do more and be more. From all this pain came this mission to change my life and change the world. I didn't want anyone to ever go through what I had experienced. So I remember the two big events that shifted me. After the fire happened and after my mom passed away, I felt this purpose, this inner drive, this motivation to make a difference in the lives of others and to live the rest of my life, however long that was going to be, a complete 180 from what I knew. And thankfully, my adulthood, with the exception of some recent trauma, has been completely different. It's been full of love, adventure, kindness, and fun. There's been no abuse, no violence. So I would say I've been dealt a much better set of cards now. But I want to share this. I know now, years later, that my parents loved me. But until my 30s, I didn't feel any love or support or anything from them. My parents treated me how their parents treated them. It's a cycle. So Britany and I will do episodes in the future on the importance of our childhood and how childhood trauma affects people for life. Physical abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse, mental abuse is not appropriate or healthy at all, and it stems from emotional immaturity, which stems from not mastering your emotions or your mind. From my childhood experiences, I became fascinated in human behavior, in our emotions, in our subconscious. I became fascinated in knowing, why do we do the things that we do? I wanted to learn and understand why parents did what they did. So I got a master's in counseling and psychology so I could become a therapist and help clients better understand themselves better for deeper self-awareness. I've been a therapist and a counselor for over 14 years now. And recently, in the past 5 years, I've studied neuroscience, nutrition, and epigenetics to better help my clients. I started realizing from my experience, and from my experience as a client, working with a therapist, and my experience helping clients, that talk therapy just wasn't enough. If it helped me in the interim, in the short term, as a client, but my deeper issues were not being resolved, then I felt this could be happening with my own clients. I learned how trauma gets stored in the body. I needed different modalities to heal. From my studies, I learned how everything is connected in our bodies, and we cannot just focus on one area to make improvements in our lives. We have to look at the whole picture, our body, mind, and soul. I had pushed away a lot of my childhood trauma to live my adulthood. I suppressed a lot, and I became a hidden, angry person. Hardly anyone saw it. And I was so mad at the world. I was mad at my parents. I was mad at my brother. I hated them for how they treated me and robbed me from a happy childhood. I hated that I had to go through all that shit. And my anger came out in spurts. It became very unhealthy. I had so much anger inside of me. But then an event happened to me a few years ago that I will share another episode that woke everything up inside of me. All my anger came out like a river. This event rocked my world. It led to a few other bad events, and I just saw blood. And I wanted to die again. I gave up. I was so mad at everyone. I felt used. I felt worthless. All that I worked hard for was taken away from me. People that I trusted, friends, coworkers, had betrayed me. I experienced the dark night of the soul. It was really bad. And all of my childhood memories started coming back. Everything horrible was circling inside my head again. My husband and our dog, who recently passed away, were my angels, and there were some remarkable friends who stood by my side. And I lost some friends during this time too. You learn who your true friends are when you're going through shit. I didn't know what to do. My body was breaking down. I became very ill, and talk therapy just wasn't cutting it. Western doctors could not find anything wrong with me. They just wanted to put me on pills, and I refused to take any pill. But everything inside my body was shutting down. I thought I was dying, and I thought it was time. I wanted to die for a long time as a child, and I survived from that fire. So I thought, maybe I survived that fire so I could become a therapist and help as many people out as I could in my previous roles. Maybe I've already done my part and it's time for me to go. But my husband begged me to not give up and to figure out what the hell was wrong with me. And I knew inside of me, and also from my studies in neuroscience, nutrition, epigenetics, there was an answer. Along with this constant love and encouragement, life amazingly pushed me towards a holistic healing journey. Now I want to pause here. I was already practicing yoga for many years. I was meditating. I was eating a really healthy diet as I thought. I was mostly vegetarian. I ate all organic food. I thought I was on the right path, but that wasn't really helping. I needed to revamp everything. So I went to acupuncture to balance my body out. I saw a naturopathic doctor and a functional medicine doctor who dived deep into my history to find the root cause of my illnesses. I went to a hypnotherapist to dive into my subconscious so I could rewire my brain from all the negativity I consumed and believed from my childhood. Together, all those practitioners found a lot of trauma and stress inside my body, which was making me sick. And the recent event woke everything up and began to turn the trauma and stress that was manifesting as unresolved anger into disease in my body. Thankfully, I was able to remedy most of the illnesses. Today, I would say I'm 95% healed, but I still have some ways to go. I'm almost there. From my experience, I realized I needed to examine everything in my body in order to heal. But I knew that my clients would also greatly benefit from this as well. So I designed a holistic approach and started using it with my clients. So when we meet, I discuss and address 5 components. The first is this. I discuss their emotions, and their feelings, and their thoughts. The second is this. I dive into their life story and learn about their lifestyle and their relationships. And the third is this. I dive into their diet and nutrition. I examine what my clients eat. Because learning from nutrition, I've learned so much of how food is linked to our emotions and our bodies in so many ways. Britany and I will go into this in a future episode, and this one is super fascinating. I can't wait to dive into this and share with you guys. The fourth is movement and exercise. We all have energy in our bodies, and if it just sits there, it can manifest into illness or disease. So think about it. If you don't move your body, if you don't, say, take a walk or you exercise, your energy is just sitting there, and this energy is linked to our emotional and mental health. We will also discuss this in a future episode. And the last component is meditation. I want to know if my clients sit in stillness or sit in quiet and just take time to go inwardly. So when I address all these areas, I am touching the mind, body, and soul into my client's life, and to help them to dive deep into the root cause of their issues and help examine all areas of their lives. Our emotions and thoughts are tied to everything. You can't just focus on, say, changing your thoughts and ignore your diet or not exercise. Everything is linked. You can learn more about my holistic approach on our website, and I'll attach it to the show notes. So you can say I've been through a lot, but I've learned so much. What happened to me motivated me to mature and grow fast. And amazingly provided this drive inside of me, this passion to make a difference in the lives of others, which is why I became a therapist. There's a silver lining from all the pain and adversity I'd faced. They were the catalyst in me becoming a therapist and for why I do what I do to help others, and including starting this podcast with Britany. Many people use their hardships and traumas for substantial creative and intellectual development. Trauma helps people to grow. When life is comfortable and happy, we want to stay that way, so nothing grows. But then things become complacent. It's the time of uncomfortableness, pain, that we discover who we are. And when I mention the word trauma, I'm not just talking about these big major traumas. I'm talking about anything ranging from small to big in our lives too. So I just want you to understand that I'm not just talking about something huge that happens in your life. It can be a small event as well too that affects how we feel. And I want to say this too. When you hear people ask, do you wish you could change the past? The cliche answer you always hear is, no, I'm glad it happened to me. It made me who I am today. Well, I call BS on that. I get it. We appreciate the experiences as it molds us into who we are today, but I did not like the abuse I endured, or being told I'm not good enough, or being slammed into a wall, or choked, or almost dying from a fire. I am not glad any of that happened. There are softer ways to gain humility and gratitude. But I'm proud of myself that I took those experiences and built resilience like none other. I gained strength and compassion from my adversity. I was and I'm still able today to take something dark and horrible and turn it into something beautiful. So I guess you can say I'm not glad it happened, but I've accepted it because what happened to me provided my sole mission to help others as a therapist. And today, I've articulated and shared some of what I've suffered through to emancipate myself while hopefully empowering and inspiring you, the listener. Know that if you're going through tough times or have been through tough times, it's changing you into a more stronger, more resilient human being. Life's hardest challenges are our best lessons. And it doesn't mean you have to be glad it happened. You just have to accept it. It provides you the opportunity to learn more about who you are and to build emotional strength, which helps you to master your mind step by step. If I can come out of the darkness into the light and heal after all I've been through, so can anyone. What happened to me happens to all of us to varying degrees. We all have our life stories, and we've all experienced adversities to some extent. And these experiences can affect how we deal with daily life stressors. I've worked with many clients over the years and seen how they've been able to heal from their traumas and adversities and get out of areas of their lives they felt stuck. But it starts with their life stories. And today you heard a summary of mine. Hopefully now you know me a little bit better, and for my friends listening, maybe now you understand more of who I am and why I do what I do. In Chapter 2, I'll share more of my personal story along with tips and insights on how to master your emotions and your mind. If you listen all the way through, thank you. This was super hard for me to do. I'm a pretty reserved person, and I've actually been ashamed for others to know what happened to me. But I knew it was time for me to finally open up and share. So again, thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to today's show. If you love what you heard, please subscribe, write us a 5-star review on iTunes, and follow us on Instagram at mastering.your.mind.
You can find more information from the show on our show notes on our website, notjusttalktherapypodcast.com, all spelled out. And if you're interested in working with us one-on-one, our contact info is also on our website.
Thank you again, and see you on next week's episode.